So the next speaker is myself. I will be talking about what's on the horizon for the glaucoma pipeline, specifically in terms of medication, treatment, and monitoring modalities. I am a consultant for a number of companies. I wanted to disclose that. It's not going to affect what I talk about today. So when we talk about glaucoma, you've heard a little bit about it today. 76 million people worldwide have what's called primary open-angle glaucoma. The risk factors for glaucoma include age, aging over 60, family history, steroid use, myopia, high IOP, high intraocular pressure. All of these things can increase your risk. And if you have any of those things, then obviously we recommend consultation with a physician. But more importantly, when we do speak with you, these risk factors kind of, as physicians, it kind of alerts us, okay, they have a family history. I need to see this patient more often. What is glaucoma going to look like in the year 2030? It's not that far away. By 2030, 100 million people will have glaucoma. 47.1% increase in Asia and Africa, and 18 million people in Asia, and 9 million with 18 million with open angle, and 9 million with closed angle glaucoma from 2013 to 2040. And in Africa, we're going to see an 11 million increase in glaucoma cases. That is a lot of glaucoma. I wanted to talk to you about what's on the horizon. In order to talk about that, we talked a little bit already about what was 10 years ago. In the first part of the slide, the top part, about 20, 30 years ago, we had combination drops coming out, and the onset of using drops was so revolutionary for glaucoma because all we had up until then was pilocarpine, and then timolol came out, and then all these other drops came out, and it was wonderful. It was a renaissance. People were like, oh, my pressure can go down without having to get a trabeculectomy. It evolved more than that since. We have these little stents. The iStent was the first MIGS, or minimally invasive device. I'm sure some people in this room have that. And from that has continued to evolve, and we try to intervene earlier and do things that are not as invasive. So today, we have those things. We have stents, little stents we can place in the drainage system at the time of cataract surgery. We have Durista, if you remember the talk earlier by Dr. Taymorian, implants we place into the eye. I'll talk about that. And then we have surgeries that are a little bit less invasive than traditional surgeries to help us treat glaucoma. What are we going to have 10 years from now? Well, I predict that you're going to have more sustained release. I think that you're going to take the drops out of the patient's hands, and we're going to have ways and modalities that I'll discuss that helps just deliver the drops without us having to rely on the patient to do it every day. I think that you're going to have remote eye pressure monitoring, and I think you're going to have remote testing because those are a lot of patients that need glaucoma care, and we don't have enough doctors to provide it all. So we have seen this trajectory of glaucoma medication. 1875, pilocarpine was discovered, and this is a picture of the bottle in these tiny little brown vials. It took 100 years from 1875 to 1978 for timolol to be discovered. Timolol is still used till this day, but that took 100 years of development from that. From 1978 until now, we have made so many strides. That is with prostaglandins, the latanoprost, the Zalatan, all of those drops came out in the 90s. Combination drops came out, which was really great because you can combine 2 drops into 1 bottle. And then the Rho kinase inhibitors like Ropressa and Rocklatan, those things came out that had a different mechanism of action that allowed our patients to get even more pressure lowering. And then now we're moving beyond just drop use, and that's what I'm going to discuss. This is a picture of kind of some of the things we do for drug delivery. I'm going to focus my first part of my talk on drug delivery. And drug delivery is basically engineered technology that allows targeted delivery or controlled release into the eye. So if you can see the top kind of square has something said, it says intracameral. That means something we place between the cornea and the iris. We place it in there, the physician places it, and it allows eye pressure lowering by slowly releasing the drop by itself. We place it in there, the patient doesn't need to use the drop, and then we monitor. We have that right now. That is the only thing we have actually on this list that is available, and you can always talk to your doctor if you're a candidate. You do have to have some specific rules for if you're a candidate for that or not. And then we have angle, so that is that trabecular meshwork we talked about, things we place into the angle that release the drop by themselves. A contact lens, we don't have that, the next few things I talk about are on the horizon, but not in use right now. Contact lens that you can place on your eye that releases the drop by itself without you having to put it into the eye. Canalicular means a punctal plug. Many of you may have had a punctal plug for dryness. It's placed into the eyelid, and it will release the drop by itself. And then port delivery. That right now is something that's used for macular degeneration. Macular degeneration patients oftentimes get injections. Some of you may have macular degeneration with glaucoma, and there are ways to give and deliver the injections through a port delivery. I won't get into that too much. So this brings me to the concept of what we talk about at our conferences. It's called interventional glaucoma. It is a concept of reducing the glaucoma progression by intervening earlier in the disease process. 30 years ago, we didn't do that. We placed patients on drops. We waited till they had some level of blindness, and then we did surgery for them because the risks of the surgeries were too great. And now we are shifting our mindset. We are not going to wait until blindness. We're going to identify risk factors and then treat earlier so that we can get patients a lower risk of disease progression. Some of the things I'll talk about are part of this interventional glaucoma model. First is a sustained release implantable drugs that I'm going to talk about. Second is stents. Many of you have probably heard of stents in the eye. Stents come in a lot of different varieties. They may be in the angle. Some people talk about stents and it's just in a different part of the eye. So that is a kind of a broad term. And then you have laser. We also have a lot of different kinds of laser. Even for glaucoma, we have 3 or 4 different types of laser. So not every laser is equal. As Dr. Taymorian mentioned, we already talked about the bimatoprost sustained release. This is the injector is what we use as physicians. That little white polymer looking thing or cotton ball looking thing has the drug inside of it. We place it into the eye. It is about the size of the eye on the dime, and it basically elutes the drop little by little inside the eye so that you don't have to place the drop. It works for about 15 weeks. It's only at this moment approved for a one-time delivery. And so a lot of doctors won't necessarily talk about that with our patients because a one-time delivery is not that useful for somebody who's using this chronically. But we can use it for what we call drop holidays. If you have a really bad dry eye, I will take a patient off drops and consider using this for them during that time. So that previous slide is the only thing that's FDA approved. All of the other things I'm going to talk about are not on the market, but it is what's on the horizon and what I hope gives you hope for what's to come. So this is a nanoparticle. It's called eczemer's nanoparticles. It's a drug delivery punctal plug. So as I mentioned, this is a little plug. They place it into the little drainage system of the eyelid, and it allows the top of the actual plug has the drug on there with some special material. And as you tear and as you blink, that drug comes out of the plug and allows it to go into the eye, and then it gets absorbed. And presumably these will be replaceable so that the physician places it, you go home, and then you come back when it runs out. Sustained release, what's called idose TR. So this is an implant. It's placed into the angle of the eye. This is similar to the eye stent, if some of you have had that, about the size of it. It is a surgical procedure. We place it into the eye, and at the very end of it, you can't see it here, but there's a little elution membrane right on the end. The drug is inside of that. And the way that it comes out through that membrane, little by little, allows your pressure to stay nice and low, 24-hour control. And the idea is that the doctor places this, and then when the depot is run out, we take that out and we replace it with another one. And because it's not FDA approved, we don't know how long that will last, but presumably it will last a couple of years, so that you go in, get it done, and then get it replaced. This will allow patients to not have to use the drops themselves. It will reduce the amount of side effects on the topical of the eye if you have allergies. It'll reduce the cost. So I'm hopeful about that. This is another sustained release injection, not FDA approved, but it is that same drug, the prostaglandin. It's put on a polymer. It's injected into the eye. You can see it as this little yellow film, and that it elutes over time, and again, hopefully gets 4 to 7 months of drug delivery to our patients. Okay, so that's the drug delivery part. Let's talk a little bit about stents and stent surgery. Let's see here. These are the future stents. These are not out. So a biotissue stent, this is a stent. So when we say stent, that means we're placing a little tube, and it's shunting fluid from one part of the eye to the another part of the eye, and it's bypassing something. So let's say your trabecular meshwork is not working that well. We place a stent in there so that we can get the fluid, that excess fluid, out of the inside of the eye and push it out to another part of the eye. This particular stent is made out of some proprietary material that is like biotissue, and you can see it. You place it into a part of the eye, and then you see flow go in and then out of it. We have stents that are similar to that right now. This is just a different material, and different materials matter because maybe it reduces scarring. There's a lot of research going into these types of stents. And then this is just the injector that it comes on. Another stent is another implantable stent, very, very similar. It looks like it's placed in the same place, but it's actually not. It's placed in a slightly different location. And again, you can see these tiny, tiny micro holes, holes upon holes upon holes, so that fluid goes through there, and then it gets redirected to another part of the eye so that you get better flow, 24-hour control. And now this brings me to lasers. So laser eye surgery, lasers were made famous by LASIK. We are not talking about LASIK when we talk about laser for glaucoma. We use different types of lasers. SLT is the laser we currently use in the office. There is a new product or a new laser that's coming out, which is really incredible. I've actually seen it in action, and it's really interesting. It's very similar to SLT. By a show of hands, who has had SLT in the room? Great, that's a large number of people. So SLT is relatively straightforward. You sit at a laser, we put a little contact lens on your eye with a little gooey jelly, and then the laser works for a few minutes, and then you go home, and it's relatively straightforward. This particular laser is a non-contact laser. So your patient sits at the little chin rest. The machine actually identifies the iris and identifies the trabecular meshwork through an iris registry type of thing. And when the patient's looking at the machine, it registers that, and then it places within 10 seconds or so all of the laser spots onto the trabecular meshwork without any contact at all. It's kind of incredible. I don't know what it is going to be like in real life. It's always fun to find out. But I think this is a really, it will be very easy for the patients. Another type of laser, it's called a femtosecond laser. If you've had cataract surgery with laser, they have used a femtosecond type of laser. Femtosecond is just a description for a fancy and very fast laser. And it actually goes in there and it does cuts for you. In this particular laser, the laser will attach to the eye, and within a couple of seconds, femtoseconds, it will create little holes in your drainage system to allow for more drainage through it. So it's similar to the SLT laser in kind of reinvigorating that type of tissue, but it's done a little bit differently. And then another laser that's coming out, again, we use the terms femtosecond and eczemer to describe for the doctors what kind of laser it is. But for your purposes, I think you just need to know there are all these different lasers. But this, if you can see here, that's the little brown area. It's very hard to, do I have a pointer on this? I do. Oh, no, I don't. I thought I did. Hold on, maybe I do. Oh, I do. Very good. All right, so this is a trabecular, so this is the iris. This out here is the cornea. The drainage system is only seen by a special lens. And you can see it here that this brown is called the trabecular meshwork. And these laser spots are trying to bypass the trabecular meshwork. So there are little holes created into there. And that is what the laser that we do in the office it does. It doesn't look like this. These are bigger holes, basically. And it creates these little microchannels so that fluid from the inside of the eye bypass what we think is not functioning very well and goes out of the eye. And the reason lasers are used for these is because lasers are super precise and they don't allow for all that inflammation that surgery and cutting does. And that's why there is so much development in laser. And now this brings me to remote monitoring, which is our last topic. Remote IOP monitoring, or intraocular pressure monitoring, is going to be a very big part of the future. This already is in development. So this is the other slide that's here. It's not on the horizon, it's here. They're actually outside. They have a booth. You're able to buy this. I mean, for our patients, we still have to have a prescription, and we facilitate the purchase of this. And it's basically the patient takes it home, they can use it, they're trained on it, and they can measure their pressure themselves at home. And the 24-hour collection of data is basically transmitted through a portal to your physicians. And it allows you to have a little bit of peace of mind, allows you to use this while you're traveling. There are a lot of benefits to this, and hopefully one day they'll be covered by insurance. Contact lens pressure monitoring. That's another really hot topic. These are the pictures of the different contact lenses. You have triggerfish up there. Triggerfish works a little differently. It basically monitors the volume of the eye, because you think of the eye as a balloon. If the pressure goes up, the volume goes up, and it measures that change, and that's how it measures the eye pressure. There's another wireless, it's called theranostic. That is definitely a beta model. I think that doesn't look like that. It's not going to look like that in real life, but it's a sensor. It has both a sensor for pressure fluctuation and a way to release the drop. So senses the pressure is high, we give a drop. That would seem like it would make sense. It's, again, it's something that's on the horizon. And then the MyLens contact lens is in that corner up there, and that also is another contact lens that will provide 24 hours of monitoring. Artificial intelligence. Not a day goes by that we don't hear about something about artificial intelligence. This particular ophthalmic sciences developed an AI-based image processing, so it actually measures your vascular pressure and measures your pressure through a non-contact way. And again, this is on the horizon. You put it on your eye and it measures your pressure. It's performed in a few minutes, and then it's uploaded for analysis. And then this really should be coming out very, very soon. Avellino is a company that does genetic testing. They already have genetic testing out for cornea, for something called keratoconus, and we use that actually in our office. You just you order this kit, you take a swab of the inner part of the cheek, you send in that sample, and then they tell you what your risk factor is for keratoconus. Well, glaucoma definitely has a genetic component to it. So they develop, or are developing, this genetic test. It has the same thing. You place it into your cheek, you put it into the little vial, you send it into the company, and the company comes back with a list of potential genes that you have and your risk factor. Now, glaucoma is not one gene, so it's a little more complicated than just like, oh, hey, you may have it or you may not have it. So it's really important that they get all those, that testing appropriately tested before they release all this stuff. But I intend on offering it to our patients who are we don't know they're glaucoma suspects, they have a family history, they have multiple risk factors. It may guide how aggressive we can be or need to be for their pressure lowering. So in summary, I think that the horizon for glaucoma and glaucoma care is incredibly bright. There is so much development, so much research going into it, from stem cell research to pharmaceutical to devices. There's so much. It's one of the most rapidly changing fields is ophthalmology, and glaucoma specifically. I look forward to being able to see all of this and to offering it to our patients. And with that, I thank you, and I think we'll have a little session next.